Maiden, Mother, Crone. The idea of the triple goddess has far-reaching roots going back to even Hecate of the Greek pantheon of gods. In the many interpretations of this goddess, she is best known as three distinct aspects, symbolizing the phases of the moon and the female life cycle. She is known to be goddess of the moon, the earth, and childbirth. By Miyazaki's own admission, Elden Ring draws its inspiration from many different stories and games, such as The Lord of the Rings, Berserk, Shadow of the Colossus, and the Elder Scrolls. But you can see inspiration from both current and ancient real-world religions as well. You need only look at crucifixion imagery to see a clear parallel to the way Marika hangs on her stakes. Clearly, the ideas behind old gods and religions are alive and well within the world of Elden Ring. And we believe this idea of the triple goddess can help us to unravel the mystery of one character in particular, Renna, the snowy crone and master to a young Ranni, who taught her the ways of ice magic and the dark moon. Welcome to the latest episode in our Elden Lore series. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. We hope you appreciate this look into our thoughts and theories of the lore of the many characters and monsters throughout Elden Ring. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. Every subscription helps us to grow this incredible community, and after 90 episodes in this series, we can proudly say we have some of the best fans on the platform discussing their own personal thoughts and interpretations of Elden Ring's lore in our comments. Even if you don't subscribe, thanks again for checking out our content. And with that said, let's get back to the topic at hand. Many know the name Renna as the alias used by Ranni the Witch when we first meet her at the Church of Ella in Limgrave. She tells us she's heard of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed and asks if this is us. She goes on to tell us Torrent's former master entrusted her with a spectral bell to be given to his next master, so that we may summon Spirit Ash to fight by our side. Who Torrent's former master truly was and their connection to Ranni are hotly debated, so we won't get into that. Suffice to say, based on the artwork for Shadow of the Erdtree, we believe there will be an answer in this upcoming DLC. After speaking with us about Torrent, she asks we forgive her intrusion, and muses over when the day will come that the Tarnished stop following the Two Fingers. Once we meet Ranni in her tower, she recalls having previously introduced herself as Renna, and her mission can begin in earnest. One major assumption that is going to be made in this video is that Renna is the name of the snowy crone who taught Ranni about ice magic. There are multiple reasons we believe this to be true, but it's never outright stated in the game. Renna's rise is present amongst the three sisters, and within it we do find the Snow Witch set, which outlines the relationship between Ranni and her mentor. Between this and Ranni's use of the name Renna as an alias, we believe there are enough breadcrumbs leading in this direction to base the assumption on. The idea of the triple goddess also makes this seem plausible, but we will address this later on. Upon obtaining the Snow Witch set, we learn a bit about Ranni's former mentor. Witch's pointed hat, frigid and frozen through, of a style associated with practitioners of heretical sorcery, strengthens cold sorcery. Once worn by the snowy crone, who the young Ranni encountered deep in the woods. She was a witch, and well versed in cold sorceries. It is said that the doll that houses Ranni's soul was modeled after her. That old witch was Ranni's secret mentor. An important distinction to make is the specific use of the word crone. While many interpret a crone to be an ugly witch, the word can also mean cruel. It's fair to say Ranni's doll form is far from ugly, so if it was modeled after the snowy crone who we assume to be Renna, then we believe the use of this word is meant to imply that she wasn't exactly the gentlest of mentors. Also, when considering the doll form to be the closest summation we have of what Renna truly looked like, we assume there were some creative liberties taken. The literal blue of her skin is absolutely possible given her mastery of cold sorceries, but it's also possible that in truth, it was much closer to the fair white complexion of Rennala. We also believe she likely did not have 4 arms. It's easy to assume that Celavis created Ranni's doll for her, and his dolls typically perfectly resemble those he crafts them after. But if we look at the rope sinew between her limbs, it's much more reminiscent of the marionette soldiers created by the sorcerers, which are also described as dolls. These enemies boast 4 arms as well, with articulated fingers much like Ranni's. Lastly, it is believed the marking under Ranni's right eye is related to the removal of her soul from her physical body, so it's unlikely Renna also showed this mark under her eye. From here, we can look at a few different cold sorceries to learn more. Frozen Armament, Glintstone Ice Crag, and Freezing Mist are all described as sorceries said to have been used by the old Snow Witch, and they tell us. The snowy crone taught the young Ranni to fear the dark moon as she imparted her cold sorcery. The dark moon is a much larger concept, and the spell of Ranni's dark moon tells us. This moon was encountered by a young Ranni, led by the hand of her mother, Renala. What she beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. We believe this implies Renala taught Ranni how to summon her dark moon, and it was sometime after this that she encountered Renna the Witch. We know from here that Renna taught Ranni all she knew about cold sorceries and the dark moon, and that Ranni clearly had enough affection for her that she would model her new body after this woman. So who was she really? We believe that Renna the Witch is actually Ranni's grandmother, and the mother of the Carian royal queen, Renala. While nothing in the game states this directly, there are 2 important contextual clues we believe point us to this conclusion: the familial naming conventions of the Lands Between, and the concept of the triple goddess. First, when it comes to familial names in the Lands Between, it's no secret they can become a bit of a word salad. Godric tracks his relation to Godwyn, the son of Godfrey. Melania, Mikola, and possibly Melina come from Marika. Rykard and Radon come from Radagon, and Ranni comes from Renala. These royal families and their lines seem to pass down pieces or variations of their own names to their children. The only time we do not see this is with Morgott and Mohg, the hidden omen sons of Godfrey and Marika, but even their shameful existences were granted the M at the beginning of their names, marking them as Marika's descendants. If we follow this same naming convention, it conveniently lines up that Renna would beget Renala, who herself begets Ranni. If we take this a step further into the idea of the triple goddess, this becomes an even stronger possibility. The triple goddess is closely related to the phases of the moon, and if there's one thing we know for sure about the Carian royal family, it's that they have a fixation with the moon. The triple goddess is made up of the maiden, mother, and crone, which is easily aligned with these 3 Carian royal women. Ranni the Witch, youngest of the 3, sits in the place of the maiden, an Empyrean chosen by the 2 fingers to take the place of Marika. Renala is clearly the mother, literal mother to Ranni, and now mother to all of her sweetings due to the influence of the Amber Egg. Finally, we have Renna, who is outright called the Snowy Crone in one of our only descriptions of her. These parallels go a step further than just parentage, which we believe provides more legitimacy to the intentional nature of calling Renna a crone. The triple goddess is said to hold power over the moon, the earth, and childbirth, and we can see each of these clearly represented by these women. Renna holds power over ice magic, an example of her mastery of the earth, as the triple goddess is said to hold power over the seasons. Renala's power over birth, life and death, is clear as she births new sweetings over and over through a cycle of death and rebirth. Finally, Ranni, should we choose her ending, holds complete mastery over the moon. We believe this simple act of referring to Ranni's mentor as a crone was an intentional choice made by FromSoft to imply the concept of the triple goddess applies to the Carian royal women, and with that in mind, we are confident in our theory that Renna the Snow Witch is actually the mother of Renala and grandmother of Ranni. A Carian witch from before they were even known as the royal family, who chose to roam the woods rather than take a seat at Caria Manor. Perhaps she saw her daughter marrying Radagon as a disappointment, straying from the goals of the astrologers and allowing the Golden Order to be too close to their pursuit of the moon. She chose to remove herself from her family. That is, until the fateful day when her granddaughter would wander into the woods and show her the power of her dark moon. What do you think of our theory on the history of Renna the Snow Witch? Do you believe she is truly the mother of Renala, or is she simply another powerful individual with no true relation to Carian royalty? Do you believe the Snowy Crone's name was truly Renna, or was it simply an alias chosen by Ranni for her new form? If that's the case, why does Renna's rise sit amongst the three sisters? Will we ever meet the Snowy Crone in future DLC? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments. Thank you for joining us as we shared our interpretation of this enduring mystery. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.